Hey y'all, welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Colton here with Brandon. Got some interesting stuff we want to talk about today, but first we're going to get some housekeeping out of the way. Mexico happened this last weekend, the Mexico Regional. As of recording, there is one result. We know that a Kaguya deck finished in top 8, but not top 4. That's all we know, so we're not going to talk about it because we don't know. Once all of the lists are in and Taya has everything, that we can put something in the description linking to that page. But in the meantime, we don't have anything for Mexico. What we do have coming up, however, announced the morning that we're recording this, Bushiroad will be hosting an English stream on Tuesday night, so like the night this drops. So we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about, what could it be? What could it be? Because it'll be known within hours of this video going up. Here's a list on screen of a bunch of things that people think it might be. It seems very likely that we're going to get Sword Art. It seems very likely we're going to get an announcement for the Quintuplets movie set. Probably a date announcement for Date Alive. Beyond that, it's all speculative.
We suspecting maybe Grisaya, Sakano too. They begin to range from there. Those ones are kind of seem like the more obvious ones of the group. We have the ones we expect that are going to be coming eventually, but are likely kind of in the distance yet. So we're not going to go too much more into it. Just wanted to throw that up there and encourage everyone to watch the stream at some point at your own leisure.
So with all that out of the way, let's get into what we were originally planning on talking about today, because there's not much else going on in the Weiss world, not the English Weiss world anyway, until we know what gets announced during the English stream. So while we kind of wait for that to happen, Brandon and I have been bouncing an idea back and forth for how Bushiroad can help out some of these older sets. We've all got, those old sets that we've played and had for years that can't really escape casual play, basically just because of how bad they are. They're missing a ton of profiles, they're old. Basically any set released 5-6+ years ago is entirely unplayable because of all the stuff that it's missing. But Brandon, we had an idea that we were talking about that we think might actually solve this problem.
Yeah, in fact, it's not even an original idea. Bushiroad actually used this similar idea years ago in the JP format. Shioko is the mascot for Weiss Schwarz. She's the one that you see around whenever there's like a Weiss announcement. She's that face. She is playable in any set in Neo Standard, so you can throw in these Shioko cards in any set available and continue on as if those cards existed there all the time.
Right, and we've seen some Shioko cards dropped in English before. They're almost always just promotional pieces. There are some in JP, there are very few in English. They're oftentimes given out as prizes or some other kind of promo. There are only, 7 different Shioko profiles in English, so not a lot going on in English, but there is more, as you were saying, in JP.
Yeah. In fact, they actually had a full trial deck of Shioko cards that was able to play together by itself, so you could actually run a full, true Shioko deck. We thought that would be a really good idea to use that same idea in English now and have a lot of those contemporary profiles put in that would help boost up some of the older sets, but wouldn't really impact the newer sets too heavily because they already have those profiles in place.
Right, and because it's not really financially feasible for Bushiroad to print like the power-up sets that JP got, mostly because the sets that those would help out are extremely old and there wouldn't be a huge market for those power-up sets, we think that this may be a very elegant solution to a problem that I don't know if Bushiroad actually cares about. I'm going to be honest. This is in no way really in Bushiroad's interest. They want people to buy new sets and new cards. It's one of the reasons why the game gets power crept, is so that people have to buy new sets over time. I don't know if there would be any interest from the Bushiroad side in making these older sets more playable, right? Haruhi and Kill la Kill and No Game No Life and Log Horizon, they're all pretty bad because of how old they are. But they don't have to be unplayably bad. Most of those sets would benefit greatly from having very simple profiles that every contemporary deck has, right? A simple drop searcher that can just search for a character from deck. A pay one, rest self, brainstormer that can salvage a character, a climax swapper, right? These are profiles that exist in every deck in contemporary Weiss. Every set has these pieces. So printing a Shioko trial deck that is Neo standard legal with every other set, that gives these old sets access to profiles the new sets already have, but that won't make these older sets still competitively viable, I think would be a good thing for the game.
I look at it from this perspective of it being a possible opportunity not only to learn how to play the game using Shoka cards, but these could be cards that basically are kind of like your starter deck cards, right? These are the cards you could carry through into new decks as you continue on and continue going forward. But they're not ones you necessarily have to rely on as you buy into new sets. But if you buy into older sets, like what's the big draw for Weiss Schwarz? Being able to play with anime characters that you knew and recognize, right? You come into the game because of a set you love and you want to play cards with them. So you come in playing into, for example, Fate. You come in playing Fate because you want to play with Saber cards. You come in with SAO because you want to play with Asuna cards. You come in because you want to play with Meliodas and Seven Deadly Sins, something to that effect. Avatar: The Last Airbender. You come in because you want to play with them. But if you come in because you see an older set that you really like and really enjoy, and you want to play with them, but it's hard to compete at even a locals level with those cards, especially coming in as a newer player, because you don't have some of the modern profiles, this can solve that.
When we talk about a potential design or potential designs for these cards, I really like the way that Jack from 3-6 Cancel talks about like the fulcrum of like positives and negatives on a card and attempts to keep all the cards kind of balanced around like the vanilla threshold, right? The fact that all of these cards can theoretically interact with everything else, both because of the text on them that isn't, trait locked, and also the fact that they are Neo standard legal with every set, that can be enough of a positive that you simply bring down the power level, right? A drop searcher that is pay one, ditch one, search for a character from your deck that is 500 power is not playable in almost any context. There are very, very few contexts in which that's playable outside of an old set that doesn't have a drop searcher, right? Or a pay one, rest self brainstormer that salvages a character but has 1,000 power on it, or a pay one, tap two that's 1,500 power and all it does is it salvages a character. People aren't going to play those cards. There's no reason to play those cards in modern sets, but they'll show up in the old ones. And there are some places where, maybe if you want to run a super spicy tech that is off trait, maybe a card like that might help you, right? But the fact that it is itself, not traded with the rest of the deck, like leads to kind of anti-synergy with all that kind of stuff. So like, I don't think like the primary issue with something like this is that what if you accidentally, by printing what are essentially, 20 profiles or 15 profiles or whatever that are standard legal with everything, what if you create a monster by accident? I think that this is designable in a way where you're not going to do that. It's also entirely possible if there's some like really obvious big problem with this that we're missing. Like this is literally something that we've just kind of like been going back and forth on for a few days, mostly because there isn't anything else to talk about in regards to news. So it's an idea. Maybe get some of these, very basic, useful utility profiles into a deck that is mostly built around, vanillas and other cards you would see in trial decks. Maybe you have like an on reverse salvage combo like you do in Milky Holmes, right? Or maybe even better, you make this like a Milky Holmes demo deck so that you can intentionally use it as a training tool. But in any case, this is not something Bushiroad's likely to run with. I don't see how they would make money off of this unless you literally did like a print to order trial deck kind of run, which you could do, right? Like they have the complete control over this character, so they can print these whenever they want to. And if they said, hey, we're going to, print these to order, we're announcing this product, we're printing them only for pre-orders, we're not distributing them to shops or whatever, and you can buy them in advance from our store, I think you could sell these trial decks at $20 a pop or whatever, print them to order, and then, maybe even make a profit off of a product that a lot of people would find useful. I don't know how popular this would be. I don't know if maybe I don't know if you would buy this, trial deck to help with your old deck, your very old set that you still like to play but desperately needs a brainstormer. Drop something in the comments, I guess. Maybe this is a bad idea. This could be just a really, really bad idea that no one actually would want. But we've been thinking about it, and I think we're both in agreement that this has the potential to be a very useful thing if Bushiroad ever decided to do this, which there's no indication that they will. Again, this is just coming up with something off the top of our heads to try to solve a problem, but I don't know.
Well, and tell us what kind of effects you would want on a card like that.
So yeah, sound off on that in the comments if that's something that you think Bushiroad should do or should consider, or if you think it's a terrible idea. Tell us why it's a terrible idea, because we haven't come up with a good reason why it's a terrible idea yet. In any case, that's it. Again, super slow news week here. Nothing really to talk about in English. So we will have more to talk about next time in 2 weeks when we talk about more BCS results and, of course, everything that gets announced at the stream. On Thursday, we'll have 5 cards, 5 minutes for Bunny Girl 2. Brandon will have a deck tech next week, and we'll have gameplay for that the following Thursday. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.